England versus India. The Cricket Badger Test Match Daily Podcast. Can Joe Root's England dominate on home soil? 5 mouth-watering test matches. Can Virat Kohli's India conquer the final frontier? Loving to talk test cricket every day.
Well, hello, Badgers everywhere. Welcome along to another edition of the Cricket Badger Podcast, the live version of it as we record the England against India daily podcast, going through this series. And what a series it's turning out to be, and what a test match at the Oval it's turning out to be. And as always, I am joined by my fan Badgers, Nakul Pandey. We've got Naman Shah and we've got Rito Mitra as well. So we've got a little bit of everything. Nakul's a neutral, Naman's an Indian fan, Rito is an English fan. And Nakul, this test match is superbly poised, isn't it, going into day 3? The pitch looks like it's getting a little bit easier for batting. We've got all of the Indian wickets left. They still trail by a little bit, but it's set up beautifully for the weekend.
It is, yeah. There was a bit of a worry that the ball would, not a worry, but, you know, the ball dominating the bat is quite a nice thing and a fun thing to see in Test cricket. But there was a fear that this game might just completely run away with itself, and, you know, it would be very, very difficult for run scoring, but that didn't prove to be the case. Ollie Pope, I think, batted really well for most of his innings, very fluent off front and back foot, played Jadeja well, played everything that the Indian seamers had to throw at him pretty well. Was only got a little bit tentative towards the end, which cost him his wicket, and there were contributions from the rest, but it's a hard one to read, to be honest, because 290, 100 ahead, England would probably be happy enough with that, but from 60 for 5, but then perhaps not having bowled India out for 190, and then perhaps not from, they could have pushed on to 150 had there been a little bit more from the lower middle order. And India mostly bowled well or bowled very well in patches, but then let the game slip at times, and it's a tough one to read, and then batting that drop catcher side looked pretty easy towards the end of the day. I mean, India will certainly be emotionally the happier, but I don't know if you can say that either team is favourites at this stage.
Rita, how do you see it as an English fan? You're looking at England. They go into day 3. I think they lose about 56 runs still, but all of the Indian wickets still intact. It's beautifully set up, as Nakul's just said, but it's a tough one to read, isn't it? England are ahead, but obviously going to have to bat last.
Yeah, if you look at this morning, England were in trouble at 60 for 5. Then there was the partnership between Ollie Pope and Johnny Bairstow, and some of the shots that the England boys got out to was just terrible. And I'm not even going to talk about Moeen Ali on this podcast. That was a terrible, terrible shot. So England will rue the opportunity. Probably the pitch was at its best today. They could have easily had 150 lead. They let slip of that. Chris Woakes coming back into the team, he has played a superb knock. Late in the innings, that 50 runs is going to be crucial. Again, there's going to be a problem with England. The slip catching, Rory Burns dropped a fairly simple catch. He didn't even see it. If England had taken at least 2 wickets by the end of the day, then you could have said that England would have been the far happier side, but now it's even Stevens.
I think the Oval's a really bad ground to actually see the ball slip. I was listening to Mark Butcher on the commentary today, and he was saying, and he's obviously played there in county cricket and in Test cricket, and he was saying that what you play in county cricket and there's a smattering of crowds, you play a Test match and it's full, and that makes a real difference in terms of how you can pick the ball up, Rito. So that does kind of mitigate Rory Burns to some degree, but England haven't been fantastic in the field, have they?
No, they haven't. They have already dropped 5 catches in this match. So whether that's due to the crowd being there or anything, but it's not only at the Oval, but they have been poor with catching at all grounds. So they have to work it out. If they want to be the best team in the world, they have to take every opportunity, because opportunities don't come easily.
Naman, you're always upbeat. You're always thinking India are ahead, even if they're 500 runs behind. But you must be quite happy with today, bowling England out with a deficit of, it could have been more, couldn't it? Let's be honest, England could have been more ruthless today. And obviously to get through to close with all 10 wickets intact, India will go to bed tonight being reasonably happy with life.
Yes, very much, and I felt that Shardul Thakur overall.
Can you just get the microphone a bit closer to your mouth now, because you're a bit faint?
Am I fine? Am I good now?
That's better.
Yeah, so overall, I thought that Shardul Thakur, the innings he had played last night, brought that unity and the aggression which this team was missing, the energy. So overall, I felt that gave momentum to the bowlers as well, and picking 2 wickets overall last night itself, and along with Joe Root. I felt somewhere picking Joe Root, you directly minus 100, 150 runs over there from the overall total of England. So a brilliant performance by the bowlers, and I felt that pitch became better and better from second innings onwards. Not to take credit from Pope, he's a local guy. He knows this pitch and the ground very nicely. So he has played some brilliant shots today. But overall, I felt India would be way much happy with only 100 runs lead because the pitch gets better for batting on the third and the fourth day, and it turns a lot from fourth day onwards. So overall, I feel if Rohit and Rahul just sticks over there and completes this lead, I feel it should be a good challenge for the Indian batsmen as well, and they would feel it good to play on this wicket and post a total rather than batting in the fourth innings.
It's an opportunity as well, Naman, isn't it, for that number 3, 4, 5, 6 in the order, which has been shuffled around a little bit with Jadeja being promoted in the first innings, to actually get a good time at the crease, because it should be decent for batting tomorrow, and it's a chance for the likes of Pujara, the likes of Kohli, the likes of Rahane to actually post a proper score.
Oh yes, absolutely. And even Pant, not to forget him too. This is the best opportunity and one could ever get. And the pitch is behaving; it is batting friendly, so no excuses from now on. To be honest, I feel that out of form word is a bit exaggerated. I feel that this is a clear technical error because to be honest, this is their third tour, and if you will see the pattern, you just cannot get out every time you come over here and in the same pattern and get out in the slips. They are far too mature and great players, and they have played too many test matches. So they also love challenges, so it's up to them. And it's a brilliant day tomorrow. It's going to be very challenging, and whole India will feel happy if both, especially Rahane and Pujara bats.
Nakul, Moeen Ali, you are the founding member of his fan club. I know you think he's amazing. He played really nicely, I felt, today. He looked in complete control of his innings, but his wicket did lead to a little bit of a tumble, and it was the wrong choice of shot at the time, wasn't it? And it's a case, I think, sometimes with Moeen Ali, he's got so many strings to his bow, he's not quite sure which one to pluck at a certain time.
I mean, he's a very good attacking player of spin. I mean, I know it's white ball cricket, but he has the best strike rate in the world against spin in T20 cricket, and he is a very good player down the ground and over the leg side. He picked completely the wrong shot to play to that ball. Being aggressive is fine as it goes, and Pope and Bairstow were aggressive in their innings. Wokes was aggressive in his innings, but it was a very low percentage shot. And he perished, and it looked horrible. He completely lost his shape. He had batted really nicely up until that point, and we don't know how valuable these 35s from him and 37s from Bairstow are going to be. We don't until the end of the Test match. Moeen had looked really comfortably. A couple of beautiful shots through the offside. We know how good he is through the covers off the back foot in particular. But it was a horrible looking shot. There's no doubt about that. And a little bit of a gift for Jadeja, as was Ollie Robinson's, whose shot was even worse, but won't get talked about as much because it just doesn't when it's a lower order batter. That was an even worse shot from Robinson, who is a very solid player. And had he hung around longer with Wokes, which he's well capable of, with that 150 lead, maybe not 150, but certainly a bigger lead, might have been possible. And also, not as long a time for India to bat tonight, it's a very big difference between batting for an hour and batting for half an hour or 20 minutes in a test match towards the end of the day.
It's a game of fine margins, Knackle, isn't it? I mean, the Ollie Robinson one, if that had, disappeared over mid wicket for 6, he would have been on the way and a hero. If Moeen Ali had executed his shot, if. But it's about shot selection. It's about when to choose your opportunity and obviously to execute it properly when you do, isn't it? And as you mentioned there, percentages, play the percentages. It's a long test match, 5 days potentially. You've got a long time to bat if you want to. And throwing your wicket away like that isn't the cleverest of plays, is it?
I forget how long it is. You do the thing that's got the biggest chance of succeeding in the circumstances, and the ball was turning a little bit out of the footmarks for Jadeja, nothing extravagant. Jadeja was bowling in defensive manner. The new ball wasn't very far away. India were just trying to get through that period, really, with Thakur and Jadeja, and Robinson played a shot that he didn't have much chance of connecting with, and that I don't think I've ever seen him play. That slog sweep. Moeen Ali does go down the ground well and does pick up the spinners down the ground well, and I'm sure would have backed himself. He probably should have been playing that straight back over the bowler's head, which is a shot he plays well. Intent, whatever, and mentality, he picked the wrong shot. He picked a low percentage shot.
But I always think back to Ben Stokes's reverse slog sweep or whatever into the Western Terrace at Headingley in his Ashes triumph. He said afterwards he'd never played that shot before, and suddenly it came into his head and he played it.
That's Ben Stokes in the form of his life in a very unusual situation where he had to do all the run scoring. He was batting with Jack Leach, a good tail ender, but probably would have succumbed to the bowling at the other end. And that was a completely freakish set of circumstances. Ollie Robinson and Moeen Ali weren't batting with a blocker tail ender. I don't like this reflexive criticism of players getting out in Test cricket every time they play an attacking stroke. And arguably, at least there was more upside to Moeen's. I don't know about Robinson, because I think it was just the chances of him middling it were so low, seemingly judging by the shape he got into. At least if Moeen Ali had middled that, it would have gone for 4 or 6. Ollie Pope, who had batted really well and had really worried India when he was batting with Bairstow in particular in that session, in that sort of first hour or that second hour rather of the morning session, where India suddenly didn't know where to bowl for a little while, and the runs were coming incredibly freely. But got out in a very tentative fashion off a ball that, you're playing a sort of pokey defensive shot outside off stump to a ball that's not going to hit the stumps. Maybe you're getting a single. If you time it really well, you're getting 4, but he didn't look like he was going to time it that well, and gave Shardul Thakur, who, had undone a lot of the good work he'd done with the bat, with the ball in that fourth seamer role, hadn't played that role effectively up until then, a bonus wicket. And again, that could have cost England 40 runs or so.
Shale Manju's been on there, as always. One of our regulars is old Shale. The pitch is flattening out. He says openers set. India could score big tomorrow. He's wondering what kind of score India will be looking to defend to get in the absence of Ashwin. Obviously, the spinner not there in the fourth innings for India. He says that Shardul Thakur and Siraj conceded a lot of runs. Pressure was on when it was 60 for 5. So all good points there from Shell. B31 Villa says it's very much in the balance still. India definitely won the last session today. And Harry, it's Harry from the podcasts. I can never pronounce his full name, but we'll call him Harry. Moving day tomorrow, as they say, always about day 3. All good points there. But let's get back into the play today, Rito. Chris Woakes. I mean, wow. He comes in, hasn't played for a year. Comes back into a test side. He gets 4 wickets with the ball in the first innings. He scores a 50 with the bat and takes India down towards the end of that innings, didn't he? With some terrific shots there and built that lead up to nearly 100. It's been a terrific test match for Chris Woakes so far.
It has been a fantastic test match, a comeback test match for Chris Woakes. That's why they call him the Wizard. He is as close as Ben Stokes in England as an all-rounder.
Who calls him the Wizard, Rita? Let's get this straight. Who calls him the Wizard?
George DeBell.
Well, you can take what George says with a pinch of salt. We'll call him Wokesy on here.
Yeah, he's as close as Ben Stokes in England as a Test cricketer. Really, the control he provided with the ball in the hand, taking 4 wickets, he could have had a fifer had Root taken that catch of Kohli. He should have had a fifer, but still, the 50 crucial 50 that he made was just glorious. Batting with Jimmy Anderson, he did all the scoring. Jimmy scored just a single, and he added crucial late order runs.
Yeah, 55 runs for the final wicket there, which, as Knuckles says, who knows how important every single run of this test match might be. It might come down right to the wire. I think when you say they, Rito, when they call him, it needs to be more than one person to be a they. If it's only George, then it's he, I think. Naman, I mean, you obviously supporting India, but we on both sides of the fence, we can look at the strengths of the other side. And for Chris Woakes to come out of the wilderness and out of a pretty horrendous year for him away from the Test team and come back in doing what he's done has been pretty impressive, isn't it?
Yes, brilliant. And more than that, the calmness he's bringing. He did not look that he was rested or he was out. He was not playing. He was not part of India's tour, I guess. From Sri Lanka onwards, he went back home, but he was not at all looking scratchy. It was a go-to bowler for Root in the first innings. Even we were not feeling the presence of Henderson. It was all about Woakes in the first innings, and that brought about a bit. Relaxation on Henderson's mind as well. But he's an asset, to be honest, for England. And as Rito rightly mentioned, that uh, after Stokes, he's the one who provides that balance and that cushion that Root needs, especially in red ball cricket. So just brilliant. And he was like making it look so easy with the kind of shots he had played against the likes of Bumrah. It was just so nice to watch as an Indian fan as well.
Nakul, the word nice there from Naman, but he's known as the nicest bloke in cricket, isn't he? He might be known as the wizard by George de Bell, but he's generally known as the nicest bloke in cricket. And it's good to see the good guys can triumph.
I think this England team is pretty likable by and large. There's a lot of very likable characters in there. Joe Root, I think, is very likable and certainly well-respected guy. Moeen Ali, and as you say, Chris Woakes, a few others as well. I think not all of them, but some of them. Hasib Hamid as well has got a great.
If you've not been mentioned on that list from Knuckle, then you can consider yourself not nice.
Looking up and down the list, I don't know much about Ollie Pope, but no, it's not an exhaustive list. But yeah, he batted superbly. I mean that cover drive to get off the mark was an absolute scorcher of a shot. I was on commentary at the. In fact, no, I think I was off mic at the time and. Threw my hands back and actually applauded. Actually, sitting here in the studio, applauded that cover drive. And he's got this slightly odd technique now, where he's like backing away to a little bit and giving himself room, but he times it so sweetly through the offside. He again looked a little bit suspect on the short ball when he was trying to hook. We've seen Pat Cummins work him over a few times, both in Australia and in England, and a little bit surprised India didn't do that for a little bit longer at the start of the series, but he's such a sweet timer of the ball, and he was a joy to watch, and it's just a shame for England that someone couldn't stick with him more. I mean, he's the player of the match so far with bat and ball.
Ollie Pope, we mentioned there. We talked before the Test match about was it going to be Dan Lawrence, was it going to be Ollie Pope that came into that middle order? You'd have to say, and I was all for Dan Lawrence. Who knows what Dan Lawrence would have done if he'd been picked? But on the basis that Ollie Pope played so nicely, they made the right call. He's got a terrific record at the Oval. Mark Butcher kept banging on today about the fact that he's averaging around about 100, I think, in South London. But played beautifully today. And this is the Ollie Pope I want to see, because when he plays like that, he looks like a real Test cricketer.
He really does, and he's scored some Test. I mean, he scored not 100, but a decent score in New Zealand early on. I think in his first series, or his second series back, his first series back rather, where he was really restricted himself. South Africa a little bit as well, but he was fluent today, really with everything he tried to do. He was so busy, and he was hitting good balls for singles and ones and twos, batting in a very Joe Root-like manner in a way, including his fluency backward of square, but he was on the offside, but he was scoring all around the wicket, some lovely on drives on probably the only pitch so far this series where you can drive the ball down the ground with any kind of confidence. and he was an absolute delight to watch. People talk about. People were saying, I think I heard the word a few times on the Sky commentary when I was off mic. Investing in Ollie Pope, and I think, and to quote Michael Atherton, you'll get good dividends from that. There is a player in there for sure. I mean, how you balance the team when Ben Stokes comes back is another question. Ollie Pope would probably over the next few years want to be looking to move up the order. But I think for the moment, 5 or 6 and let him settle in very nicely in a similar manner to how Ian Bell was allowed to settle into the England team in that role. And you've got a player who's got some promise. I mean, he's got some things to work on. We saw how he was troubled, really, ripped apart and sewn back together, facing backwards and inside out by Ashwin in India, and was discombobulated against New Zealand earlier this year. So he's got some issues to work on for sure. He's not the complete article, but there's a very good player in there, and he was delightful today.
Well, no wonder he's been injured if he's been sewn back together again. So Ollie Pope, I've watched him for quite some time now. I think I saw his first century against Yorkshire for Surrey. And he's looked the real deal all the way through. His first-class record is absolutely brilliant. I've been frustrated by him recently because I think he's been a bit frenetic at the start of the innings, and he's been out for nice 22s rather than gone on to make the opposition pay. But today, he kept his foot down. He was tremendous.
Yeah, he was tremendous. We have heard about his record in first-class cricket at his home ground, and he has taken a leaf out of Joe Root's batting. He has just changed his guard a bit. He has moved on to the leg stump a bit, and that has paid rich dividends for him. He will feel he missed out on a well-deserved 100 by 20 runs. He should have got there. But still, it's a nice comeback, 80 for him, and should really take him to the Ashes later in the year.
I could not see them going without him, to be honest. But even if he had a poor run. Now, man, let's look at India's performance in the field today. The bowlers, I mean, Bumrah does what Bumrah does. I think Umesh Yadav's been very good in this test match as well. If there is a criticism, I mean, Nakul kind of hinted at it earlier. Shardul Thakur looked a little bit toothless with the ball at times and often relieved the pressure in the same way that people have talked about Sam Curran giving India a kind of foothold. Shardul Thakur, I thought, did that today.
Yes, not only him, also Siraj. I feel the length, if you will see the overall last 3 test matches, we ended up bowling a bit too full compared to the last 3 matches. We tend to do things which England were doing to us. The bowling was too much full deliveries, and if you will see the shots which Pope has played towards long on and long off, those were the straight drives. So overall, they bowled quite full deliveries, which did not trouble England batsmen at all. And it was just runs were on the flurry. They were scoring so quickly, and all around the ground, it was just straight and the cover drives. So I feel they just missed the length. I also won't doubt them or blame them. Maybe this would have been the strategy because they have been short of the length, and the England batsmen are trying to play a lot of backward shots towards cover point, and so they tried something different. But overall, after the first session, to be honest, the pitch became very much batting friendly. It was not quite helping also. So yes, it tends to happen, and bowlers try to do things too much to get the batsman out. So overall, yes, a bit disappointing, but overall, I won't blame the bowlers. They have done a good job to restrict England to 290.
You're not going to strip Shardul of his lordship then, just yet?
No. I just enjoyed that innings and the energy. I love that kind of fire he brings into the team. This is why I always feel that every test match, especially when you are playing away from home, a fresh face should be brought in every test match, because a home team is quite good to read your 11 players every time. So they see what happened when Umesh Yadav came. So they were not prepared for so much of pace. So also Pope came in for England, and all of a sudden the result is different. So every time and new players being brought in, it's just different contest altogether.
Now, man, we've done niceness in the England side. Whenever I've seen an Indian player interviewed, I mean, a lot of my favourite players are in that Indian team. They always come out. I mean, Dinesh Karthik did some really nice pieces for the TV before he went home. But I saw Shardul Thakur getting interviewed yesterday. He comes across as a really nice fella. The Indian contingent over here in the squad seem to be good blokes too.
Yes, very much. So you're talking about the Indian commentators, right?
No, the players.
The playing 11.
The players, yeah, they seem to be good guys.
Yes, 100%. But it's all about give and take relationship. If you will be ugly, a bad mouth, you will be getting that in return. And it's like, see, to be honest, when you are in business on the ground playing that match, Kohli and team, especially this young and brutal team you saw in Australia as well, they won't leave any chance. And this is only going to hurt the home team. But overall, off the ground, they are just completely different players and they are too friendly. And yes, you have seen in IPL as well, but on the ground they are just you can say enemies would be a huge word, but they won't let an inch go away.
Nakul, if you're Ajinkya Rahane and you've been told in the dressing room that you're going to be replaced at number 5 by Jadeja, you see Pant go in and then you're effectively you're going after Jadeja. That's a little bit of a kick in the teeth, isn't it?
A little bit, and I don't think it will happen in the second innings. To be honest, I think the point might have been made. The promotion didn't work. This is only the third time Jadeja's batted in the top 5 in Test cricket. And look, small sample size, but he is, I think, very capable of batting 6 or 7 in most teams around the world. I don't see that he's a top 5 batter. Certainly, Ajinkya Rahane is not scoring that many runs. I think he looked okay in the first innings. I think he was moving quite nicely and didn't look as tentative or as frantic as he has been at times early in his innings. And look, it looks a very different picture for Ajinkya Rahane if he comes in with the score 200 for 3 rather than coming in at 39 for 3 69 for 4 rather he came in.
Slightly different pressures.
Yeah, it's a different game. Although Rahane, the cliche about him is that he scores better under pressure, but he is going through a slightly weird period at the moment where he's been frenetic and is finding some strange ways to get out and is not looking like the player that he has been over the last few years. I don't know that I would have been shocked for him to be left out in this Test match, but I do think that the overwhelming consensus that he must be dropped and that he's suddenly a terrible player or whatever or that he's done in Test cricket is many steps too far. But really,
knees have been jerking everywhere, haven't they, in this series? But Ashutosh has been in touch on the messages, and he's saying, was Jadeja being sent in ahead of Rahane a suggestion that Rahane is on his way out, as you've just said? Is he going to be retiring?
No, if you don't have any faith in him, don't play him and play someone else, Hanuman Vihari or Suryakumar Yadav or play an extra bowler. But I don't think that would have happened. No, I don't think we need to read anything more into it other than that it was a slightly funky change, probably a left hand right hand thing that didn't work. I haven't actually heard because I don't think Virat Kohli's been asked yet by any of the press whether he's not been up before the press yet. I'm sure we'll find out at the end of the Test match. Why? Although, given that his explanation for not picking Ashwin was left-handers when Ashwin has more wickets against left-handers than anyone else in Test history, an average of 19, I'm not sure Virat Kohli's stated answer will help us very much either. I think it's just one of those things, to be honest, and I don't think it will happen in the second innings.
Let's step away for a second from what is a fantastic Test match. It's a fantastic series, and I can't wait for tomorrow and beyond. But Javo 69, I mean, honestly, the bloke turns up in the was it Lord's the first time, the first Test match, and he runs on and pretends to be batting. He then rocks up at Headingley and runs out there. And then today as well, what the security people doing? B, anybody laughing at him and thinking it's hilarious need to get their heads fixed. And C, he needs to be thrown in prison and never let anywhere near a sporting occasion, doesn't he, Knuckle?
I'm interested to see how carceral you've gone so quickly. Java was quite funny the first time. He was sort of standing around slightly bemused looking, and so hello, you're Rohit Sharma and all of this stuff. But it has got tiresome. And certainly once I found out that he was a self-styled prankster who basically does this for clicks and engagement and all this stuff. He's human clickbait, Jarvo, and I think he got Daniel Jarvis. Sorry, let's not go by his self-appointed nickname. And we understand he's been arrested tonight on suspicion of assault, presumably for colliding with Johnny Bairstow. He's being held at a South London police station. I always like that sort of non-specific way of reporting these things. It's classic. I mean, I don't think you're allowed to say which police station they're being held at, so it's very much a legal thing. But I quite like that phrasing, as though people are going to go around every police station in South London trying to find out where he is. But yeah, it was sort of funny the first time, a bit boring the second time, and now really very boring. And I understand that the crowd mostly booed when he.
Yeah, I was going to say that they got a pretty bad reception today. Whereas the first time everybody was thinking it was funny. I won't read out Shale's suggestion for Jarvo's next prank because I'll just give him ideas. Shale, if he's watching from his cell, we better not do that. But Rito, it does get a bit tiresome, doesn't it? And the hit he gave Johnny Bairstow, he actually hit him with a little bit of force there, running in after his sort of bowling action. And Bairstow is quite a chunky, solid fella. He's very. I wouldn't want to fight Johnny Bairstow. I don't know about you, Rito, but I wouldn't want to fight him.
Yeah, there's the picture of Merv Hughes taking up a streaker in one of the grounds in Gabba, probably. I think that's what Johnny Bairstow should have done, but with his COVID rules, he couldn't. And Jarvo has just outdone himself. It was funny the first time, but since then it has been just boring, irritating, and frustrating. And I'm just happy that he has been arrested. And why didn't the ECB just ban him from all the grounds in England? That's beyond me. Yeah, Yorkshire Cricket did the right thing last Test match by banning him for all his life, not to enter Headingley. But why didn't the ECB take any step? That's beyond me.
I mean, I've actually looked at his YouTube channel just out of interest to see if he actually gets in rewatching, and he gets quite significant numbers, which is where Knuckles' point about him actually turning this into a bit of a revenue stream comes into play. And it's not just cricket that he's gone to. He's been to other sporting events as well. I'm not trying to suggest everybody goes and looks at his YouTube channel because that kind of defeats the object. So don't please do that. But he gets around a little bit. And Naman from India, how are people in India seeing Jarvo? Because I'm sure people over there are talking a little bit about him.
The feeling is pretty similar what Nakul mentioned.
Can you put your microphone back to your mouth, Naman?
Yeah, the feeling is pretty much similar as Nakul rightly mentioned. That first time it looked funny. Okay, it's done. But again and again it's happening. We feel it's like annoying. And just imagine something like this happening in India. You will see Joe Biden speaking about this right now in USA. So it's that way, and it's really annoying. And what worries me is where is the security? And secondly, with this COVID impact right now, and what if he is detected right now with COVID? What happens to everyone? And what about this test match? It's such a wonderful series, and all are in bio bubble. It's such a crucial situation, and we as fans are getting so much to watch. And kudos to whole cricket fraternity, everything they are doing for their security, for their health and everything. And just a small mistake can impact so much of things. So it's bad from security personnel. So they should have stopped. It's like any Tom, Dick, and Harry can just walk onto the park and just shake hands and come back. And what they'll do is just spend one day in jail and maybe see you again in Manchester. So I feel this should be stopped and a lesson should be taught and make a huge statement this is not going to be entertained in sport.
Rita, you want to come in?
Yeah, James, if you remember during the Pakistan T20 series, even in all the 3 T20 streakers just got inside. So the ECB just needs to look into these things, why they're getting in, what the security people are doing. And even during the 100, in the initial games, there were streakers getting in every game. So the ECB must do a review of the security personnel.
Well,
it's not just in England though. I mean, I've seen test matches in India where people have gone out to the middle in India as well. So it happens at sporting occasions all over the place. But Nakul, to me, it's a little bit more sinister than this. I mean, Jarvo's just a bit of a mindless idiot, I think. But we've seen Monica Seles and the injury that she sustained when a fan came out behind her when she was playing tennis. That there is a potential for something horrible to happen.
Well, I mean, that guy wasn't a fan; he was a stalker. Let's call a spade a spade.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure Java is particularly a cricket fan, though. Really, is he?
Well, sure, but he's not an obsessive stalker in that sense. But the intent and whatever is very different. I mean, there's a few things. I don't think the stewards in England are not paid well. Let's be honest. They're not under that much. They've not got that much motivation to put themselves out there for their employers. They're on 0 hours contracts and all of this stuff, and it's all outsourced. And
well, before you get on to your next point, I used to work on the turnstiles at Grimsby Town back a long time ago, just to make a few quid and see the game for nothing. And we used to, it kind of got promoted around the ground. I ended up on the away fans because that was a little bit more onerous. And I think Sheffield United turned up one day and they all started rattling my cage, calling me all the names, and basically started to jump over my turnstile and go in for nothing. I turned around to look for the stewards and they'd legged it a long time ago. They just left them to it. So you're right. Stewards aren't paid hardly anything.
They've got no power. They've got no authority.
No.
They've got no training. It's like people working in a bank during a bank robbery. The bank's insured. They're not getting paid. They putting themselves out there for nothing. And there aren't enough of them to make a material difference. If someone, if for example, what happens at Wembley during the European Championship final, this is taking a huge jump because that's nothing like one person running onto the pitch. But yeah, I don't really understand how that person, who is not exactly trying to hide himself, was not immediately banned from every cricket ground in England after the first time he did it. We know with entering the field of play carries a heavy fine, and you're banned from that ground. Maybe now you're banned from every cricket match in England for life. And yes, we saw a streaker at Lords as well as this guy. We saw we had the drunk students in Birmingham. People will say, it is very true. You used to get pitch invaders, mass pitch invasions at the end of games all the time. Every World Cup final up until 1999, even. Mm. Or I think of Lara breaking the world record in Antigua both times. Even into the early 2000s in England, you would sometimes see mass pitch invasions at the end. And you see at the end of football matches sometimes, a team's got promoted or something. That's not the same. A spontaneous thing of a mass kind of everyone running on and jumping around and being a bit happy and confused and now I've got here, what am I doing here, type of thing. Or I remember being at the Emirates watching the FA Cup final on a stream. It was live streamed back to the ground, and a bunch of people came on and think, "Oh, I'm here, and started doing knee slides on the turf and all of that. But the culture has changed, and things have changed, and this guy doing it for profit. Let's call it what it is. He's doing this for profit, and he's making the game about himself, and everyone's tired of it. Frankly, I don't know that he'll actually be. I know he's been charged. Oh, I don't know if he'll be charged with anything. We can't know that legally. He's been arrested on suspicion of assault, is all we know. Hopefully, we never see him again, and we don't have to talk about him anymore.
There's probably a book in this somewhere, isn't there? The kind of the
and he's going to write it, and it's going to be.
I don't think you'll be able to write it. It'll be on YouTube. But the way it's kind of progressed, because people started running on the streakers with adverts on their back, didn't they, for betting companies and what have you, because they get paid by the company that the advert was for, and that would pay the fine and give them a little bit of profit, and then the fines went up a little bit. Maybe they need to look at something to try and stop these things happening. Let's finish off though, gentlemen, today by getting back to the important stuff. The cricket, day 3 at the Oval tomorrow. India starting 56 runs behind, all 10 wickets left. Rito, who wins the 4th test match? Well, what's the result going to be? The draw's still there.
Well, England will win it. But they need to get early wickets tomorrow morning because this pitch is flattening out, and the Indian openers, they have been in good form. Although Rahul hasn't scored a lot of runs lately, still, if England can get quick wickets, 2 or 3 wickets in the first hour, then the Indian middle order, who are not in great form, it's game on for England, and they don't want to chase more than 200 on the pitch.
There's 1 vote for England. I reckon it might be 1-1 after I ask Naman. Naman.
Yes, to be honest, and See, apart from what target India is setting, I always feel that even 150 runs is difficult to chase in the fourth innings, come what may, because batsmen are so much in pressure, and it's red ball cricket at the end of the day. So, yes, because India is not going to bat in the fourth innings, and I have seen the stats and also the as per the records on the ground and how the pitch behaves. Spinners are having a lot to do in the fourth innings, so I feel Jadeja is going to spin the web. Maybe Rohit Sharma, you will get to see him bowl too, but I feel it's advantage India if they bat really nicely, at least for two sessions tomorrow. 200, 250 should do good to them.
I think if you see Rohit Sharma bowling, then India are in trouble. Shay keeps mentioning that the weather. He's seen a weather report that doesn't look great for day 5. I've actually just during the show checked the weather reports that I look at, and it actually looks fine for day 5. So I'm not quite sure what you're looking at there, Shay. I think we'll be okay for the weather if we even get to day 5. Nakul, we've had one apiece for India, England. You're our neutral badger today. Are you going to go for the draw and just even things up?
No, I'm not. I think there's too much time left in the game for it to be a draw. And as I understand, the weather is going to be pretty much the same as it has been the first 2 days, with some bits of sun and bits of cloud over the course of the rest of the Test match. I just don't see it being a draw. I mean, I think there'll be just about enough of the pitch, and I think India are in a stronger position at this stage, which seems odd to say when they're still 56 behind. But I think there are more ways for India to win this game, and then they're kind of controlling the pace of the game, bowling fourth on this pitch. England did make the most of more or less of the aggressive choice of winning the toss and bowling first, but India have done just about enough to keep themselves in the game, and it looks like it's easier to bat. It may get easier to bat again tomorrow. Day 3 is often a decent batting day. And then I don't want to go selection again. I think certainly if Ashwin were playing, I think I'd probably be a little bit more confident in this. But I go to, for example, Jadeja took 7 wickets in the match the last time he played at the Oval, 4 in the first and 3 in the second, albeit somewhat expensively in that second innings when Cook and Root piled on all of those runs. So he has some decent memories here, and the ball is turning a little bit, which can be all that you need. I think Siraj bowled pretty well in his second spell and third spell. I think there's enough there that India can set England, 200, 220, 250, something like that, and really be sort of more in command of the game. So I'm going to go just about for an Indian win. It's too close for me to even call it. I think the draw is probably out of the equation, as Knuckles says, but 56 runs might not sound like a lot, but if England get 2 or 3 early wickets tomorrow, then all of a sudden it puts pressure on India. Their middle order has been suspect, and it could go any which way. But if Rohit and KL even build the score, add another 100, and they're suddenly all of a sudden 50 for 1 effectively in this match, then India are pretty much in control. So anything could really happen, couldn't it? One more factor. Virat Kohli looked really good in the first innings.
Yeah, he's gone from the struggling Virat to the more free-flowing Virat, hasn't he?
To the slightly ominous Virat Kohli. You have to think there's a big score coming, and why not in this second innings?
It's going to be very, very interesting. And of course, we'll be back every single day on the Cricket Badger podcast. The England against India Test match dailies. And we'll obviously be back tomorrow to review day 3, hopefully without any pitch invasions as well to talk about. And we'll just talk about cricket tomorrow, I hope. But it's been a terrific Test match. Thank you to Nakul, to Rito, and to Naman for joining me today. I'll be back with different fan badges tomorrow as we review day 3. I'll see you then.